What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I think this may actually be one of my all-time John Williams favorites, so sit back, relax, and enjoy as we try to figure out what he does. Okay, so this piece may be a little bit ambitious to try and transcribe in real time, but let's give it a try. And also, just by looking at the tempo, you can see how this is probably gonna be a much more complex cue than the previous one. But once again, we'll give it a try. We're gonna play each section once. I don't care about monetizing, but hopefully this way the video is not gonna end up being taken down. So let's start with the beginning of the cue. Man, I'm in heaven already, but I'll try to keep it together. This is one of my favorite cues in film music in general. So let's try this. So we are in B, quite unusual. We basically have a combination of, you know, sus chords. And then we end up on this E major 7 in first inversion. And right as the flute finishes, we have the first violin picking up a line. And we'll take care of the rest later. What about the chords? Yeah, something like that. And I believe to reinforce these chords, we have some harp. Let's scale quantize the glissando to B major. All right, now what else? What else do we have? Okay, we have some pits. Okay, one small change. I think this chord should be played tremolando, at least violas. Yes. Very good. And we also have a build-up on brass and woodwinds maybe, leading into the following section. And also super important, we have a flute line as well on the very last bar. Let's not forget about that. Alright, so that would be everything. I think I can't really hear anything else. So let's have a listen to the following section. We're gonna do the brass build-up as we record the rest of the parts. So I believe these should be exactly the same chords, right? But in a lower register, so. And then it goes into this other section, which should be quite straightforward. Which is basically just an F sharp 7 sus4. And then it goes to this, you know, modulation. Or modal interchange, rather. So G to F. And I think we could also go ahead and just copy this to the second violin, which should be playing exactly the same thing. Is there anybody else on the melody? Yeah, I mean, it's a very small thing, but there's a glockenspiel doing some accents. So let's do that straight away before we forget. Let's take care of the bass straight away because that's one of the easiest parts. I believe the chords may be a little bit different from what I originally thought. I think we're going into a B major 7 first of all, and not just a plain B major. And then the second chord should be a B sus4, maybe with the ninth as well, something like this. And then going back to a B major 7, and then into this C sharp minor 11 or something like this over B. And the top part should be on the horns, and the bottom probably on the trombones, with violas and cellos reinforcing a couple of those notes. And then the trombones. Alright, I just noticed a line possibly on viola. Let's try that. And also on the second half of the section, the melody should be doubled in octaves. Also, and I'm not super sure about this, but it sounds to me like the cellos are doubling the melody 2 octaves lower, which is quite strange. They're probably not playing exactly the same part, but something in a similar kind of vibe. Those 2 chords at the very end, so. And now I'm gonna record some automations. I think there should be some counterlines on the flute. It's gonna be quite hard to identify exactly what they're doing, but we can do something in a similar kind of vibe. Da-da-da-ba-da-ba-bam. I believe the main difference between mine and, the original is that the original feels like it's moving. It feels like it has some momentum, while mine is quite static. I believe there's some underlying textures going on woodwinds or something like that. Probably some arpeggiations on clarinets and bassoons, something of that sort. So let's add that in. I'm not necessarily hearing it, but I know it's probably there. So I'm gonna try and guess something similar. You know what? This is too difficult to play because of the tempos that are changing constantly. So I think I'm just gonna write it in, and I think I'm gonna revamp some of these chords that we have on the trombones because I'm not super happy about those. First of all, let's add the third. We had that G sharp on the viola as well, so let's add it in. Okay, cool. I think I may come back to this part later. I'll have to listen to it with fresh ears. It's probably the more challenging part of the piece because there's a lot of things going on. But yeah, otherwise I think that should be pretty much everything. Alright, that was freaking hard. Let's hope the next section is gonna be a little bit simpler. Man, I love this. It seems to me there is only one chord. So the last chord was an F sharp in first inversion, and we're going into so it's just basically a D7 sus4 on Celeste and strings, I believe. And I think I may be layering these with some vibes as well. And then let me have a quick listen to the strings. Actually, before we do that, I'm gonna do one small change. It's definitely repeating that D. So I think this may be a little bit simpler than what I thought it was. These chords are not fully flashed out, so it's kind of difficult to tell what it is exactly, and also they're quite dense, but it's a general kind of mixolydian sound. So I think what we get at the beginning is this on strings, of course, with this being on viola, violin 2 and violin 1, and then we change into this one, I think, which is basically a G sus4. But in general, with the melody being shaped the way it is, I think this is a more general kind of mixolydian vibe, so it doesn't really matter what we do on strings, as long as we hit some of those notes, it should sound quite similar. I think this may be hard to do mock-up wise, because we don't... repetitions, you know, in general are difficult to do, but we could try and fake it in a couple of different ways. So starting with the viola, yeah, I'll have to edit this a bit more to make it sound more natural, otherwise it's gonna sound terrible, just like it did now. Oh, okay, that took a bit of time. So let me just copy paste this onto the other instruments, change the notes, so that should be a B, and then it moves to a C. Finally, violin 1 just stays on a D. Alright, so the harp should be quite straightforward, pretty much only vamping on a D. The strings sound terrible, absolutely terrible. I don't know how to fix this. Alright, yeah, well, I spent forever on this to make it sound better. I don't know if it does. I think it's time to move on. Let's have a listen to what follows. That's so beautiful. So check this out. It's really pretty. What I think he does is once again, it's kind of difficult to tell because these dense voicings sometimes are hard to be entirely certain, but I'm pretty sure he does something like this. And then we go into a C major 7. And then it stays there. And then it goes to F sharp half diminished. So it's basically like a 5-to-1 cadence. So let's give that a try. And now we're gonna record the chords. I just noticed that the melody is doubled on Celeste as well. Also, and this may be a super minor thing, there's an arpeggio on harp at the beginning, right at the beginning of the section. So let's have a listen to the following section. The melody continues on Celeste. So we have something interesting here. I think cello and the second violin are just holding the D, while we have violin 1 and violas just kind of having this chromatic motion that sounds a little bit like this, with the celeste arpeggio on top. So basically that makes a couple of interesting polychords. So let's record that. And now the following section. Man, these chords. Right, so it's quite a complex texture. I think we have a mixture of a few different things going on, but in terms of chords, we still have that suspended sound again. Something like that. We'll figure out the details as we go. Let's go ahead and do the English horn as well. And now the easy part, let's record the cello. It should only be holding that single note, that F sharp, very lightly. I believe violin 2 and violas may be doing some fast arpeggiation, you know, that interlocking kind of thing, which of course is not easy to replicate with mock-ups. What we're gonna do is a string pad, and then we're gonna do something underneath, but we'll be using the string pad just to give a better impression of what the chords are for this section. So let me have a quick listen to the original again. I believe there may be some woodwinds. Oh, actually I spotted something in the previous section. Remember how the second violin was playing a D in the section before, you know, static? We have the same thing on the flute, I think, but an octave higher. Let's do the flutes then. Something like that. Maybe is harmonized, I'm not sure. But what uncertain is this French horn line we have at the end of the section. I'm hearing a lot of warmth in the original. That is making me think that there are some low woodwinds underneath everything. So let me try and add that in. Maybe bassoons or something like that. As always, I always seem to neglect harp for some reason. I always leave it last. Yeah, there is a little bit of harp arpeggiation to kind of reinforce the chords. You know, we've seen that throughout the piece. Makes sense to have it here as well, and I do hear it. I'm not sure exactly what it plays. I'm guessing it's gonna be playing, you know, the same, supporting the same voicings we have on the strings and, you know, the low woodwinds. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's close enough. As I said at the beginning, let's add, I'm gonna just write in, you know, that arpeggiation, that counter, that shimmery part on violas and violin too. And after this, it may be a good point to stop. We are halfway through the piece. I don't want this video to be like an hour long. So let's have a listen to what follows. So basically this should be the same as the beginning of the piece, but it's over the fifth. So it should be quite simple, I hope. This sounds to me like English horn and maybe clarinet in unison with a top flute as well, playing at a higher octave. Let's try that. So let's carry on with the rest, starting with the bass and cellos playing in octaves. I'll do the rest of the strings as well. Once again, underneath this part, there will be the same sort of shimmery arpeggiation we had before between violas and violin too. And I think it makes sense for this warm, low sorts of stuff to have brass as well. So let's add some trombones. And since we're doing this, let's finish off the brass with the French horns. And also, I believe the first violin should be doing something different as well. I originally thought it was gonna be doubling the main melody, but I don't hear it doing that. Harp should be doing some arpeggios just like the rest of the piece. Finally, the very last thing would be violas and violin too doing that arpeggiation. I'm gonna write that in. And I'm aware, guys, I haven't showed you yet. So this is how it looks like. Yeah, quite simple. It's quite literally a couple of intervals going up and down in contrary motion. So I believe that should be pretty much everything. I'm not hearing anything else. I'm sure I'm missing a ton of stuff. But that's about the best I can do in this limited amount of time. So I'm gonna tweak the mock-up a little bit off camera, and then I'll show you how it sounds like. That's about everything, guys. We'll be playing the music in just a second. Once again, this Logic session alongside a MIDI file and many other files, you know, and extra educational resources are available on my Patreon, so check that out if you're interested. And if you want to know more about composition in general, you can check out my composition course, 20th Century Orchestral Writing. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, hit the like button and leave a comment if you have any question. That's by far the best way to support the channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.